All right, hello and welcome to the Miracle Morning for Network Marketers audio series / podcast, depending on where you might be finding this information and this content at the moment. My name is Pat Petrini. I'm the co-author of the #1 best-selling book, The Miracle Morning for Network Marketers. And in creating this book, we reached out to some of the very top network marketers in the world, and we interviewed them, some of the top performers, both people that have been around the network marketing world for years and even decades, as well as people that are fairly newcomers that have just been around for the last few years, but have had extreme success in those just those last few years. And we reached out, we interviewed them. That's what this series is all about. You're going to hear interviews from a number of different people. And in these interviews, we dive into not only their tips, strategies, techniques, things that have really accelerated their business, but also, and of course this was sort of the thesis, the theme of the book is the Miracle Morning for Network Marketers. We delve into their morning routines and their daily rituals, things that they consider to be critical for success that are really important for them to do every single day. And what we found, the whole concept of the Miracle Morning is that not every successful person does all of these different things every day, but just about every successful person does some of these things every day, has some of these daily rituals, oftentimes morning rituals, and so we dive into that in this audio series. Now, if you're not familiar with the book, you can check out the book, of course, at Amazon. Just go to Amazon and search for The Miracle Morning for Network Marketers. You'll find it right there. And then, of course, you can also go to our website. You may be listening to this recording right there on our website, but if you're not, if you're finding it somewhere else, go to tmm4networkmarketers.com. That's TMM, like the Miracle Morning, FOR, networkmarketers.com. Again, my name is Pat Petrini. I hope you're going to enjoy this interview. I know you're going to enjoy this interview. You might want to have a pen and paper handy, and on with the show. Thanks a lot.
All right, well, welcome everybody to the call. This is Pat Petrini. Appreciate everybody being on here, and really excited for our guest today is Mr. Keala Kanae. Keala, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, buddy.
All right, awesome. Well, Keala is tuning in from down in Hawaii, down in Paradise, and really appreciate you being on the line with us, and really appreciate you participating in this project with us, the Miracle Morning for Network Marketers. I'm really excited for everybody to hear all of your wisdom that you've got to share with us. So thanks for being on.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. So just kind of diving into it, if you could give us a little bit of your background, a little bit of your professional background, and then also kind of how you ended up in the network marketing industry.
Sure. I was kind of raised in a humble home here in Honolulu, Hawaii. We definitely didn't have much growing up. My mom, she was waiting tables when I was born, and then eventually she opened her own business, kind of just cleaning homes for a living. So it's always been a small business. It's just her. She works with contracts with its private residences, and she cleaned home for a living. My dad, he had a good job. However, he also had a gambling addiction, so that's where most of his money went. So I was raised in a very, humble household. We didn't have a whole lot. I was kind of raised in that environment where, you often hear things like, what do you think? I'm made of money. We can't afford that. Money doesn't grow on trees, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard growing up. And so that's kind of the environment that I was raised in. And then when I was 17, I graduated high school and went on to college. And my first semester in college, some friends of mine and I, we were throwing parties all the time, like hotel parties, like a lot of young people at that age do. And people would offer to actually pay to come to our parties. So we started looking into ways in which we could, get paid to throw a party. And it turned out that you can actually do that. It's called nightclub promotions. So
right.
I went online and I made some fake IDs for my friends of mine and I at that age, so that we would be 21. We found some contracts, some generic contracts on the internet. We went out and we started going out to nightclub owners and giving them a proposal, telling them that we promote their nightclub. Nightclubs if you're brand new to the industry, they always want to give you the crappiest nights. So we'd have like a Monday or a Wednesday or something like that, something that wasn't busy, but, we did our best with that for a while. And around that same time was the first time that I was introduced to network marketing. I was taken to a hotel meeting. I was sitting in a room. Some guys in suits were in the front of the room drawing the circles on the board and, talking about, making, $10, $20, and $30,000 a month and not having a boss. And, that just really clicked for me. Like something started to fire off in my brain about, you mean it's possible, to like earn a substantial living and not have a boss, right?
Right.
That thought had never entered my mind prior to that.
Yeah.
And so I got started with that deal, and, I didn't do much. I actually quit within maybe a month or two. I didn't stick it out very long, but I've always been grateful for that experience because it kind of opened up my mind to a whole new realm of possibilities. So, around that same time, I'm building this nightclub promotions business. We failed at that miserably for like 2 years. I mean, just about everything we did was a complete loss of money. I was using all of my scholarship money for college. Being of Hawaiian descent, there's financial aid programs out there for, I guess you would call underprivileged, right?
Yeah.
So I would take that financial aid money and I would invest it into this nightclub promotions business, and we were losing money pretty much hand over fist week after week. So we kept going for 2 years. Eventually we kind of cracked the code and started to finally break into the profit. And about 3 years in, I had a couple of my partners wanted to do their own things. We kind of went our separate ways. And I had always promised my mom that, I'd finish college. So the whole time I was in college, I just wasn't focused there. So I focused my attention back on school. I graduated with a bachelor's in psychology in 2006. And, having that entrepreneurial experience for the first time, I was immediately addicted. I was immediately addicted to the idea of not having a boss, to not having a job, to being in control of my own destiny, to designing my life the way that I choose, right, to being the architect of my life. And so even though, I went back to school, I originally actually wanted to change my focus from psychology to business. However, when I saw my college counselor, I found out that almost none of my credits after being in school for 3 years, almost none would transfer. Only the core credits. So I'd be set back about 2.5 years. And so I was talking to some entrepreneurial friends of mine, and they kind of said, well, Keala, getting the degree, you don't need a degree to be an entrepreneur. You just need ambition, right? You need drive and commitment. But getting the degree will, show that you have that commitment. So instead of changing my major, I finished with a bachelor's in psychology, and that's when I went out into the workforce in 2006. And my first introduction back into sales and marketing was with a mortgage company, and I was actually getting started with this mortgage company right around the time that the market was collapsing. Mm-hmm. So I was coming in when a lot of people were leaving, and I worked hard there. I was diligent. I did the work. I never really made any money. I was with that particular company for about 8 months before they ran into some financial issues due to the market changes. Then I left there. I was with another company for a little while. And then eventually I left that industry. I went back to, serving tables at restaurants, which is something I did immediately after college. And, from there on, I kind of served tables. I was into different sales and marketing jobs here and there, selling life insurance, had a brief stint with like real estate and financial advising a little bit. And then eventually in 2012, I got back into network marketing, which is where I've been since then. This is obviously April 2014. So right about the end of 2012, I got started in network marketing again, and within about my first year, I did a little over $100,000. It's been about 6 months since I hit that mark. I think I did about 110, maybe 112,000 my first year. Since then, I've done, last month I did about 40,000. This year, I'm pretty confident I'll be hitting about 500,000 this year. and on my way to $1 million next year. So that's kind of my story. That's my background, kind of leading me up to where I am right now.
Yeah. So one of the things that I wanted to just ask you about is, in some of the questions that we've gone over before, on your sort of path up, you said that to a lot of people, maybe a lot of people that are on your team or that you work with today, they look at it and it kind of looks like you were successful right off the bat. But, I think that it's easy to miss, right, all these things that you've kind of gone through, and that it's kind of like, the success, they'd say that, like, success is when preparation meets opportunity. And you've had years of preparation and training and sales experience and sort of clawing your way through stuff, and then you found yourself where you're at, and that kind of allowed you to just explode like you have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, success is kind of like an iceberg, I think, in that, when you see an iceberg floating in the water, like I took this trip to Alaska back when I was, I think, about 10 years old. I was in like the 4th grade. We went on our first trip to Alaska because my mom's sister lives there and she has her own family up there. So we flew up to Anchorage. We hung out in the middle of winter. I had never seen snow before in my life, freezing cold. And I remember us taking this trip up to this kind of a visitor center where you could actually see icebergs floating on the water. Yeah. And I remember standing on this, you wouldn't even call it a shoreline. It wasn't really a shoreline. It was just like ice that was, sitting on top of the water. And you could walk out on this ice and look out onto the ocean, and you would see these huge mountains of ice, right, sitting on the water, kind of just barely floating. They float so slowly that they look as if they're still. And I remember looking out onto that and kind of being just amazed by this experience because I had never seen anything like that in my life, this huge block of ice floating in the water. And so when most people look at success, it's kind of the same thing because they see, they're amazed because they see this, this level of success that they want for themselves. But what most people don't see is that all you're seeing is what's above the water, but below the water, the iceberg is much bigger. And see, the same is true with me. My story is much longer than the beginning when I got started in 2012 with the company I'm with now, right? So the majority of my iceberg is underwater. It's the thing that people don't see, and they think that you get started somewhere and you instantly have this huge success. And then when they don't have that huge success instantly, they begin maybe judging themselves or comparing themselves or putting themselves down. And that's really not the case because if you listen to any success story, every success story that I've ever come across, the majority of the story is below the surface.
Yeah, no doubt.
All we see is the iceberg.
No doubt. Yeah, and I think it's a great point. And I think a lot of people have seen that if they're, whichever company people are at, you see those stories where somebody is up on stage and had a lot of success, and but what you oftentimes don't totally see or you don't get to witness is the years prior to that. And maybe it was with that same company and it took years before they kind of hit it, or maybe it was just all the different life experience that came before that. So when they finally found themselves sort of at the right time in the right place, that they were prepared to really go for it. They had the training, they had the skills, the knowledge to really go for it that they hadn't before. But yeah, I think it's really important for people to realize that if they're not necessarily having the success that they want to right now, the stuff the mud that they're clawing through right now is setting them up for that success that might just be a little bit down the road.
Absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead. Something else you were going to say there?
No. I was just going to say that I completely agree with you. I see. I think one of the shortcomings, one of the challenges that people run into is that they overestimate what they can do in the short term, but underestimate what they can do in the long term.
I love that. Yeah.
They get started with a company and they kind of overestimate what they can do immediately, right? They see these people maybe making 10, 20, maybe 30,000, 40,000, maybe 100,000 a month, and they kind of get started and they say, well, you know what? I'm gonna give this everything I've got, and I'm going to make, $10,000 in the next 30 days. And then if they don't hit that goal, then they immediately underestimate what they can do in the long term.
Right.
And which is what causes a lot of people to quit. But it's that long term. It's that I'm grateful. I would say, I'll put it this way. I am grateful. Now, when I was in the middle of all my struggle, and I mean, there's been many, many years where I was totally broke. There was a brief period where I was sleeping in my car. There was times when I didn't have, I didn't know where my next meal was going to come from. I've been to that place in my life. And when you're in there, it sucks, and all you can think about is getting out. But today, when I look back, I'm so grateful that I had those experiences, because those experiences, prepared me for the success I'm experiencing today. And I think the thing that people don't see, like, they don't realize it when they're stuck in it. But now I can look back and say, I'm grateful because I know that it was worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It is that stuff that prepares you. I think that there's, I can't think of any massively successful person that I've ever heard that has told their story where a huge part of their story wasn't these massive things that they had to overcome, right? These massive challenges. Literally, it's actually like you have to have that in order to even get where you want to go. You have to have those massive challenges that even set you up for that big success.
Absolutely agree.
So, and kind of on that topic, of course, the whole message that we're trying to put out there with the Miracle Morning for network marketers is, and the Miracle Morning series in general, but specifically for network marketers, is trying to show people what a massively powerful impact it can have on people by doing simple things every single day, by having sort of daily routines. And I think it's maybe Jim Rohn that says that it talks about the difference between things that are simple and versus easy. It's really simple things to implement every single day, but it's not necessarily easy to have the discipline to really do it every single day. But I think it is the implementation of these sort of simple things every single day, these simple habits that successful people do, that leads to exactly what you're talking about. It's these simple daily actions that in the course of a month or 2 months, they take discipline, and there's not necessarily massive payoff in like a month maybe or 2 months, but in the course of, like you said, the long term, the 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, what the cumulative effect of implementing these things on a daily basis, I think you're absolutely right that we tend to dramatically underestimate what will happen in our lives by implementing those over the long term. So I want to kind of talk about that a little bit. Is what are some of these daily routines that you implement? How do you get your day started? If you have kind of a morning routine or an evening routine, kind of walk us through it.
Okay, great. So my morning routine is actually, like I said, like you mentioned, it's really, really simple. For me personally, I don't like waking up to alarm clocks, so I kind of just wake up whenever I feel like waking up. Except, unless of course I have an appointment for something or something like that, I'll set an alarm clock. But that was kind of part of my dream, was to not be able to sleep and wake up when I please, instead of waking up to alarm clocks for the rest of my life.
Right.
So I kind of wake up at whatever time I wake up. I tend to stay up till the wee hours of the morning. I go to sleep about 3, sometimes 2, 3 in the morning. And then I'll wake up when I feel like getting out of bed. But once I do, there's a certain routine that I have. So I have these affirmations that are written on my mirror. So on one wall of my bedroom, I have these sliding closet door mirrors, right? It's the closet doors are actually a mirror. So I write these affirmations on there about myself. So, for example, I am a millionaire internet marketer, might be one of them. Okay, and my company, just so we can clarify, it's primarily on the internet, and you can set whatever statement you want, but basically it's saying I am a millionaire. And then I say, I easily hire 2 people per day into my business. I easily generate 500 leads per day, things like that. And so what I do when I get up out of bed is I'll usually just kind of stand in front of that mirror, and I don't necessarily read every line. I kind of operate from this belief that my subconscious kind of absorbs its surroundings anyway. So I just kind of stand in front of that mirror and I have these affirmations. If I'm looking at myself in the mirror, then those affirmations are kind of overlaying my reflection, and that's just kind of how I see myself as being this millionaire marketer, this person who's easily sponsoring 2 people a day, so on and so forth. And so I just kind of do that for a brief moment. Then I'll go out, I'll brush my teeth, take a shower, maybe make myself some breakfast, and then I sit down and I begin reading. And I have a couple of reading routines now, one that I just started recently and one that I've had for a while, which is the one that I've been doing for a while is I just pick up a book that's either inspiring, directly related to sales, marketing, and influence, or related to my personal development, me as a human being. So, for example, one of the books I'm reading now is Way of the Superior Man. So obviously that's not directly, and not directly attached to succeeding in network marketing or sales or anything, but it's helping me to become a better person. So I'll pick up a book, and I'll just basically read for 30 minutes to an hour. And the reason being is that I want to start my day ingesting new information. I want to bring into my experience high-quality content to start my day, to get my brain functioning at a certain level. So because what most people do is they'll get up and they'll immediately go and check their emails, and I'm guilty of this on occasion too. I'm not going to sit on this call and pretend that I'm perfect at all, but most people will get up and they'll check their email or they'll jump on Facebook, and I never really had words for it until I recently hung out with one of my mentors, and he said, well, the challenge with that is that anybody can send you an email and anybody can post something on Facebook. And to be honest, it's often low quality. However, if you pick up a book to start your day, hundreds of man-hours went into that book. It was edited and refined, and thousands of dollars was spent delivering a high-quality product to the end user, which being me. And so I like to start off my day by reading. And then the other part of that is that I understand that my earnings in the marketplace are a reflection of the value that I have to offer that marketplace, right? So the way to increase my earnings is to increase my value in the marketplace. And the only way that I know how to do that is to become more valuable myself by learning more information. That's how I increase my internal wealth, which the world will then reflect back at me as an external wealth. I'll read for, again, 30 minutes to an hour a day. I have this new practice of ultra reading, which is where you kind of just pick up a book and set an intention for what you want to get out of that book. And then I set a timer for 3 minutes, and I just kind of flip through that book, holding this intention of what I want to get out of the book. And then if I'm going to ultra read, I'll do that with about 7 to 11 books.
I thought that was really interesting when I had first heard you talk about that. So you'll spend like 3 minutes. You'll have kind of a stack of books, and you'll spend a few minutes on each book, and just kind of plow through like 7 or 10 books or something.
Right. What I want to do there is, it's not necessarily about consciously ingesting the information. Okay, so you saw me talk about this recently, and then had people who commented on Facebook saying, well, like, are you actually going to read the book? Shouldn't you read it slowly? Isn't it easier if you digest it, in a traditional sense?
Right.
And my belief system is that, and you can kind of look up science that'll support this, but our conscious minds can only process so much information at a time, but our subconscious minds process hundreds of times more information moment by moment by moment. And so all I'm doing with the book is I'm picking up a book that, based on the title, this is what I want to learn. So I'll pick up the book, I'll look at the title, and I'll say, I kind of put my hand on my head, and I say, what I would like to receive from this book, or here's what I would like to receive from this book. And then I kind of put my hand kind of on my stomach. I kind of rub my stomach and kind of say, I would like to have a deep subconscious understanding of maybe how I operate as a man in this day and age, right?
Yeah.
And then I'll open the book, and I set that intention, and all I'm doing is flipping through the pages and holding that intention and feeling the feelings that are attached to that. So if I felt like a powerful, strong, independent man in this day and age, how is that going to feel? And so I focus on that feeling, and I just kind of flip through the pages. And every now and then, a passage or a sentence, something might pop out at me, and I might read it. And if something doesn't, that's fine, and I'll just keep flipping through, and then I end the timer at whatever time I set. So anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes. Once the timer goes off, I'm not trying to finish up some sentence that I might be in the middle of. I'm just closing up the book and moving on, having faith that my subconscious mind is ingesting the material that it needs in order to satisfy that intention. Then I move on to the next book. And what I find is that it's not about consciously digesting all the information, but because I'm taking books in a variety of areas such as personal development, wealth building, sales and marketing, psychology of influence. I'm taking in all this different information for a few minutes. What happens is it seems like my brain just kind of starts to fire off on all these different levels.
Yeah.
And I just kind of have a new array of ideas. So what I want to do is I want to be in my creative space as often as possible. I want to be in my idea laboratory as often as possible, coming up with ideas and creations that help me to create a better income. And so what I've found, just in the brief, I've only been doing this about a week now, and I just recently shared it on Facebook and stuff. And what I found, here's an interesting thing, is yesterday I sat down to write a new ad for my business. And I kind of have a general layout of a script that I use when I'm writing ads for my business. And yesterday I sat down to write a new ad, and I'm kind of sitting there looking at it, and I'm using this general script that I've been using for months now that's made me, tens and tens of thousands of dollars. And as I'm going through it, I kind of just deleted the whole thing and started from scratch and started with a whole new script. And it was a very different writing modality than I'm used to, the content that I delivered. And for me, it was very much a subconscious, just kind of stuff that came up from my subconscious mind and just kind of flowed out into the advertisement. So not something that I thought of consciously, and not something that I can say I directly got from any one book, but definitely something that when I was done, I was kind of reading through it, I really felt like that came from this exercise of ultra reading, where I'm learning about all these different writing styles from, a couple of top advertisers. So
it's a really interesting practice. I'm definitely going to give that a shot because I thought it was really interesting as soon as that's how you post about it. So other thing that I wanted to ask you about is having to do with environment, and I know that you have a lot of thoughts on kind of controlling your environment and why that's important. Also, I was going to ask you, sort of, is that how can you think back to when you started intentionally doing that, and what you actually do as far as sort of controlling your environment, what impact that has on you?
Yeah, sure. I'll be happy to share that. See, I got started in personal development in 2009. So this is a key part of my story, and I think it's really important for people to know. So I had been struggling financially for years, right? And I had gotten very resentful of the fact that I was struggling for years. I mean, I had a decent amount of success when I was first in college, and then there were some things that took place towards the end of my college years that caused me to kind of sabotage myself for a pretty long period of time. And for the next about 6 years, or maybe about 5 or 6 years, I struggled financially. I mean, I was always just barely over broke, if that. And in 2009, some things happened. Basically, my girlfriend left me. We had been together for about 4.5 years. She kind of walked out on me. And it was the first time in my life where I started to think about, question, okay, what just happened? Why'd she leave, right? And I looked around at my life and I realized, I didn't have a good relationship with my father, my mother, my brother, any of them. Everybody, and all of my friends. I know the only friends that I had a relationship with weren't friends that were going where I wanted to go. And so for the first time in my life, I realized, for the first time in my life, I didn't even realize, I asked myself the question, what if it's me?
Yeah.
What if it's not because, my mom is, her way, or what if it's not because my brother is his way, or my dad is this, or my girlfriend is that? What if it's me? But I'm the common denominator in all of these situations, so what if it's me? And that was the most powerful question that I ever asked myself, I think. Because once I accepted that it could possibly be me, then I can change me, right? I can't change my mom. I can't change my brother. I can't change my girlfriend or my dad or my friends. I can't change any of those people. I might want them to change, right? But that's not possible. But I can change me. So I started my work in personal development. I took a seminar, and I attended this seminar for 1 weekend, and I had huge breakthroughs, man, huge realizations. And I remember going through that seminar every day of that seminar and feeling like, oh my God, my life is going to be so different after this, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, my life will never be the same after this. And so I went through that seminar having these huge realizations, and I came out the other end of that seminar just, vibrant and firing off for life, just super excited about what I was going to do next with my life. And, that lasted a little while, and then, a week went by, 2 weeks went by, a month went by, 3 months went by, 6 months went by. My girlfriend and I actually got back together, okay? We got back together after the seminar about maybe 2 weeks or 2 or 3 weeks after it ended. Her and I eventually, started talking again. And 5 months later, we were broken up again. And I looked at it and I was like, I went right back. After all that work, I went right back to where I was.
Right, yep.
And so I decided to advance myself in this seminar. I took some of their advanced courses. But what I realized is that even though I had changed, I injected myself back into an environment that was the exact same as what I was dealing with before, right? And so it became difficult for me to hold on to what I learned in an environment where I used to show up in a different way.
Sure.
So I kind of reverted back to my old nature, my old habits, my old thought processes. And so I decided, when I got done with this advanced course, that I was going to change my environment. And so what I decided to do is I went back and I decided to make friends with other people who had done that same seminar. Right? So I went back and I staffed it, and that's where I was able to create relationships with other people who had completed that same seminar, and I was able to create relationships with other people who were going out and looking to create success in their life, and other people who had the same, philosophies about integrity and well-being and positivity and things like that. And so when I kind of finally realized that when I surrounded myself with people who were going where I wanted to go, who were doing what I wanted to do, people who were going to hold me accountable for my goals and my dreams, rather than kind of laugh at them or kind of secretly behind the scenes be talking about,
right.
Cal is crazy, what's he thinking? He's ever going to be a millionaire? Things like that. But when I started to be around people, and people who would tell me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. Right, because I was always surrounded with people who told me what I wanted to hear. Like, you say you're going to go after something, you say you're going to go after a goal, and you don't hit it, and you have those people. We all have those people who are right there to kind of pat us on the butt and tell us, it's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. There's always next time. You'll do it. You'll have your shot again. Things like that. They make it okay to fail. But these friends didn't make it okay to fail. They said, no, if you want that, you better go out and get it. If I say I'm going to lose weight, they're not going to let me pick up a cheeseburger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was by being around people who held me accountable for what I wanted, were willing to tell me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. And I'm going to kind of put this out there for people. And, Pat, you can decide whether or not you want to include this in the book, because this might, fire off some programs for people. But I remember when I got back from that advanced course, I was listening to this audio from, the guy who had created the course. And one of the things that he talked about, and I just really appreciate today that he just freaking plainly said it. He said, on the road to your dreams, you're going to lose some friends.
Yeah.
You're going to have to shed some relationships. Because people are offended. People are challenged by somebody who believes in themselves. People are challenged by somebody who's going to go out and go after what they really want. Because you defy all their excuses. You challenge all of them.
I love that.
Right? you're not adhering to their justifications. And they want to believe so bad that they can't do it, that if you go out and do it, you offend them. So you're going to lose some relationships. And I appreciated that he said this very clearly. And he also said, but don't worry, because they will be replaced by better relationships. And so once I accepted that, because that was kind of one of the things that I was worried about. It's like, I have this new mindset, this new mind frame. I've had these huge realizations and epiphanies, but nobody else around me, is thinking like this or operating like this or approaching life like this. What do I do, And he made it okay. He gave me permission to let go of some of my old friendships. And so once I had that permission, I feel, I was able to do that. And it's not to say that I don't love those people. I'm not friends with them. I still connect to a lot of those people. I still talk to them, on occasion. I just don't spend as much time with them as I used to spend with them.
Right.
Because I want to spend time with people who are going where I'm going. I want to spend time with people who believe in what I say that I'm going to do. I want to spend time with people who encourage my dreams, encourage my ambitions, encourage my goals. I want to spend time with people who are going to lift me up. I don't want to spend time with people who are going to want to pull me down. And that's what most of the world is. It's kind of like a crabs in a bucket game. And, that's just being honest. That's not to be negative or anything. I'm just kind of saying the facts. So for me, it's important for me to control my environment and to ensure that I'm around people who I can learn and grow from, not around people who, are going to pull me down, drag me down, or even people who are going to enter information. I'm very conscious and I try to be very aware of what I'm allowing into my life experience, right? What I'm allowing into my consciousness. And I don't want to be around people who are going to complain or talk about all the problems in the world or talk about all the problems that they're having, right? Because I don't need that experience. I want to be around people who are going to talk about where they're going, what achievements they've created, what their new biggest goal is. I want to be around people who are moving forward instead of looking back, and positive instead of negative. And so I've made quite a bit of effort to surround myself with those people as opposed to the people that I used to surround myself with.
Yeah, and I think it's such an important point. And also I think that people underestimate when people hear that. I think it's easy to underestimate how hard that is to do. It's not actually, it sounds, I think, maybe it sounds simplistic, but like you said, it's really easy to get excited about it and then fall right back into your pattern, because that's your pattern, and people have been doing it. We've, all been following our patterns for years, whatever those patterns are. It's actually really difficult to break out of those patterns, and it takes a daily concerted effort, especially some of those relationships, to sort of recognize that you got to step away from those and build some new ones with some people that are actually going to challenge you, like you're saying.
Right, and I want to add something if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
It is very difficult at first. There was a lot of work for me at first. I know there was times, when I felt like I had no friends at all because all I was experiencing was the loss of friends. I didn't have any relationships coming in yet. So there were times when I felt lonely. There was times even when I kind of cried and I thought, what's happening? What am I gonna do? Am I all alone on this now? What's going on, right? There were times where it was difficult, and I continued the pursuit. But I promise anyone who's listening to this call or reads this book, I promise that just like anything that is difficult, it will become easy if you work at it. And now it's very easy. Now I don't have a hard time finding amazing people to spend my time with because that's primarily who I'm connected to. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I just want to love it in there.
So jumping topics just a little bit, I want to talk to you a little bit about recruiting and sort of your take on that. I know you've mentioned a couple times, like with your affirmations, you're a multi-million-dollar internet marketer, and how many leads you're wanting to bring in a day and things like that. So obviously, most of your kind of talking to people, get an idea of where they focus on. Most of your business or your recruiting is done online, social media, online advertising, things like that. So it's kind of more cold market recruiting for the most part, yeah?
Correct.
Now, did you sort of choose that, or is that kind of just was sort of your area of expertise, kind of, or, or comfort zone, or how did you kind of go cold market versus warm market?
Well, that's an interesting question. What I wanted to do, so I became attracted to the internet back in 2010 because I was selling a real estate. I'll just kind of share with you my story, and hopefully my story answers the question.
Yeah.
So back in 2010, I was selling a real estate investment education, which I think you actually might be familiar with, Pat.
Yeah, I've been through that education.
Right. Okay. So we both have, and so I was selling this real estate investment education, and I was having a really hard time with it because, the products were like, $10,000, $20,000, or $10,000, $15,000, $30,000, and
right.
I was coming from this place where I was really broke, so I had lots of really broke friends, right? So I had a hard time with my warm market with a product at this price point, and I kind of ran across this guy online. His name was Greg Clement. He's a successful real estate investor, and he used to and when I found this guy, he was building email lists of people who wanted to buy property, people who wanted to sell property, people who wanted to learn how to invest in property, people who had money to invest in property. And he was building these lists, and he was working, a business that was spread out across the United States. He was working it from right there in his home on his computer. And so I kind of started following him online and seeing what he was doing, and then just kind of mimicking that, because what I wanted was to be able to get people calling me instead of me calling them, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted to stop chasing my friends and family members and just kind of attract people who were really hot on what it is that I had to offer and have them kind of reach out to me, right? So I followed what this guy was doing online, and it took me kind of a while to figure out how to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. And then in early 2010, well, actually probably about the middle of 2010, about June, July, I finally launched my first online campaign. And what I had done is I had taken an ebook about real estate investing, and I actually sat up for hours over a few days, and I actually rewrote all the content of this ebook so that I could avoid any copyright issues and things like that.
Right.
And so I took this free ebook and I put it on a website. Right, it was just a picture of an ebook. I found a picture, online of something of a book that said free report. And so what I did is I started marketing this free ebook on Craigslist. So I put out a website basically, and I put a picture of this, free report, and it said, free ebook reveals the 12 investing success killers and 12 ways to avoid them, or something along those lines. It was like the Dirty Dozen, 12 investing success killers and 12 ways to avoid them, or something along those lines. Download your free ebook now. All serious investors need this information, right? And so what I did is I put some ads out on Craigslist, and the headline of the ad would just say, attention real estate investors, download this free ebook. And they would open it up, and there would be a little advertisement there with a link, and they would click that link. They'd come over to my website. And in order to get the book, they had to give me their name, their phone number, and their email address. And then, the book would be sent to them on autopilot. And I put this ad out there one day, first time I've ever done it, and I kind of was a little bit nervous about it. But I put it out there. The next day, I woke up, went and I checked my email, and sure enough, 3 people had downloaded my ebook.
Yeah.
And so I had 3 people with their name, their phone number, their email address. And so I decided to, I picked up the phone to call the first person. I'll never forget this. It was so different, man. I picked up the phone to call this girl who had given me her contact information, right? I picked up the phone to call this girl. She answers. I say, hi, is this so-and-so? She says, yes. I said, hey, this is Keala Kanae, and I was just calling you because, I noticed that you downloaded my ebook yesterday. And she kind of cuts me off, and she goes, oh, you're that guy. You're that guy. I downloaded your ebook yesterday, and I'm kind of sifting through it right now. Oh, wow, I didn't actually think that you'd call me. What can I do for you? Right? And this is like the complete opposite of every reaction that I have ever had, ever, to selling anyone anything.
Totally, yeah.
And so that kind of was like a defining moment for me where I realized, oh, there's really something to this, you know. And so I took that experience and I started branching out that advertising, and I was able to branch out across the U.S. and get more leads and call people and kind of just not be inviting people to presentations here in Hawaii, but across the U.S. And I'll be honest, I didn't make a ton of money with that organization. Not too long after I figured that out, they kind of restructured, and I ended up leaving. So I made a little bit of money with that strategy, but it was the concept, not the result that I was attached to, right? Because, I mean, the result was, whether or not I made a lot of money didn't matter to me. It was that I didn't have to, I had people coming to me instead of me going to people. And that was a big difference for me. That was a big shift because I had been in mortgages, I had been in real estate, I'd been in life insurance, I'd done all these things where I had to go out and chase the person, right? And, people respond to that. I forget whose law it is, but, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. So when I go, I'm out chasing people, then I have people who are equally running away, right? And so I had a hard time with that. And so this is the first time where I had people coming to me. And since then, I've just kind of been learning more about the Internet, learning how to leverage the Internet, and then kind of finally plugged in to a company, where those skill sets were congruent with what the company was selling. And since then, I've just been focused on primarily on getting people to come to me who are interested in what I have to offer as opposed to going to them, which is really, I can honestly say that's possible for anyone to do in any industry, in any niche, selling any product, if you can just master the skills involved. So that's kind of why I focus on my cold market more than my warm market. My original sales, though, just to be clear, the majority of my original earnings when I got started did come from my warm market. It did.
Yeah.
It's just that that's not where I focus a lot of my time.
Right. And I think that's a great point. Is that for if somebody's coming into this with limited skills, then the warm market is oftentimes an easier place to start. Obviously, because you've got those relationships, and people are really attracted to the online marketing aspect of things. I think sometimes well, okay, how they think they might just be able to turn it on or subscribe to a lead system or something like that. And just like you're saying, there's huge opportunity there. It's actually something that I'm kind of this year is kind of the year that I'm going to start focusing on sort of learning those skills that you've already learned in the last several years and do a lot more sort of online marketing and that sort of thing. But it takes some time to get that spinning. It's skills just like anything else. And so sometimes, I think it, as you said, might make sense for somebody to start warm market, but there is huge opportunity to learn the online world. And obviously, I think that's where things are moving and might very much be the future of this industry, though I don't think we'll ever get away from warm market entirely.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I definitely don't see the industry moving away from the warm market entirely because those, even in the cold market, you still have to create a relationship anyway.
Exactly.
You have to create the relationship of, know, like, and trust factor in order for people to even be willing to work with you for at any dollar amount, for any reason whatsoever. So you still have to cultivate relationships. The quickest place to get the result is going to be with the relationships that you've already cultivated.
Right,
I think
exactly.
the problems that a lot of people run into, and this is my experience with my own organization, is that, this industry has somewhat of a stigma attached to it, right?
Yeah.
It gets called all sorts of things, like, of course, the pyramid and all this stuff. And so people are a little bit self-conscious about introducing something like this to their warm market. Right? A lot of people are scared about, what will my friends think? Or, a lot of people even have the experience where they failed so many times, they're afraid to bring something else back to their friends and family members because they've seen, their friends and family members have seen them fail so many times. And I would still say that kind of my perception of that what I tell people is, that's just greedy. That's greed. It's not fear. It's greed. Because you're more worried about what people think of you than you are about what you can do for other people.
Sure, yeah. Yep.
And so I would say that when it comes to your warm market, don't be greedy.
Yeah.
And I understand that fear. I understand that place. I understand those emotions. I understand that completely because I've been there. When I was pitching people mortgages and then pitching them, real estate and then pitching them real estate investment and then pitching them a financial opportunity and then pitching them a life insurance thing. Right?
Right.
I was probably the guy on a lot of phone calls. Like, people had their in their address book, whatever, the way they saved it on their phone, my name was do not answer. I know that I had that in people's phones because I had done that to people myself. That's okay. I mean, I think it's kind of more of like, what do you really want? Do you really want, what's more important? Do you really want the dream that you're going after, or do you really want to be liked by everyone? Because when I finally gave up this idea of, this concept of wanting to be liked by everyone, two things kind of interesting, right? Once I stopped being worried about, being the guy that everybody liked, right? I freed myself to go out there and kind of push the envelope a little bit, right? Anyway, it got me closer to success. I don't think I'd be where I am today if I was still worried about, people pleasing. However, there's a vast audience out there, right, who will appreciate you having the courage to go out and break through that threshold. Because now I have more people in my life than I've ever had before who absolutely love and appreciate me, and I'm not worried about pleasing them. It's kind of it's counterintuitive.
Yeah, I love that. And one thing that it made me think of, so sometimes I think that sometimes when people hear that, hey, don't worry about other people saying, go for it, go after your dreams, go for what you want. It can sound like we're saying, hey, screw all your relationships with everybody else, and that's really not it. Tell me, if you agree with what I'm saying here, is that, in my opinion, it's like, hey, go for what you want, because here's the thing, is that everybody is in 100% control of how they react to any situation. So if I am talking to somebody, approaching somebody about whatever, like you said, you're talking about insurance and then it's this and it's that, if they decide to look upon that negatively, then that's their decision that they decided to look upon that negatively. And just like you said, there are also the people out there that will they'll smile and have respect for your perseverance, and they'll smile and have respect for the fact that they might smile and say no at the same time, but they still won't be looking down on you or giving you a hard time for going after your dreams. So it's not necessarily saying, hey, screw all the relationships, just go for what you want, but it's saying that, hey, go for what you want, and the right people will react the right way to it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that comes along with, earlier I said, I asked myself this question, what if it's me? What if I'm the one creating all of this? What that eventually led to is me having a much deeper understanding of personal responsibility. Basically, the idea that, I'm creating this entire experience, right? And it's up to me to create it the way I want it or the way I don't want it. However, when I accepted that responsibility, I also realized that, how other people react to things, that's totally their responsibility. It has nothing to do with me.
Right.
So it's totally up to them. And which kind of alleviates some of the stress and worry about how people are going to react, because when you realize that it has nothing to do with you, right, and it has everything to do with them, maybe their upbringing, their, belief systems, their, whatever it is that's going on for them, when it becomes about them and not about you, and that you can realize that they're not saying no to you as a person, right? They're kind of just saying no to maybe your product or your opportunity or whatever it is. It becomes much easier to talk to people about that kinds of stuff. And ultimately, what I found is that even the people that rejected me and ridiculed me and wanted to tear me down today, again, short-term versus long-term, because I stuck it out, in the long term, those people have all come back around now and respect and appreciate and to some degree admire me. So,
right.
it's really, do you want to be liked today or loved tomorrow?
Yeah. I love it, man. Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being, like I said, part of this project, and I'm excited for everybody to get all the information that you shared today, and for us to, get all this packed into this book and get it out there to the world. Any other any topic that we hadn't touched on, or question that I hadn't asked you that you thought you wanted to get out there that I might have missed?
Yeah, I guess the only thing that I would kind of add, and this is something that I learned a while back, maybe a year or so ago, a couple of years ago, and I think it's really important is, for me, it's not about getting rich. That's not what's important to me.
Yeah.
What's important to me is who I become in character and mind to become rich. So it's not about the goal. It's about who we become on our way to the goal. And when we focus on that, we take kind of the pressure off the goal itself. You kind of look at, all the time I'm asking myself, how am I holding myself back? Where else can I grow? What else can I learn? Right? Because then it doesn't become about the goal. It becomes about the journey of self, right? The realization, the actualization of, the person becoming the man who accomplishes the goal.
Yeah.
Right? Because the goal, the results, these are all just things that are reflection, right? These are, Donald Trump is a billionaire internally. So he has $1 billion externally, right? I mean, he operates life like a billionaire, right?
Yeah,
that guy,
and the internal piece happened first.
Right. I mean, if that guy had $10 million, he would think he was broke. You know what I mean? And so,
right.
So all I guess I want to share is, it's really not when I kind of realized that it wasn't about the goal. It was about the journey of who I become on my way to the goal. It really took a lot of pressure off of hitting the goal and gave me something that I could actually work with. Because I think people look at their goal, right, whatever it is that they want to do, whatever it is they want to create, and they kind of constantly judge themselves based on where they are in relation to that goal, right? If their goal was $10,000 a month and this month they only made $1,000, they think, well, how the heck am I going to get there? It becomes a frustration, right? It becomes a point of anguish or anger, as opposed to saying, all right, so I still have, I still have a ways to grow internally to get there. And that's something that you can actually have control over. That's something that you can master. So it's not about necessarily conquering the goal as much as it's about conquering ourselves. Right. And I find that journey is far more rewarding internally than the actual accomplishment of the goal itself.
I love it, man. You're awesome. Yep, powerful words. Well, again, I really, really appreciate you being on, and just can't wait to get this out there. So, again, thanks for being part of this project with all of us. And thanks, everybody, for tuning into this call. But, yeah, Keala, I can't say I appreciate or thank you enough. Thanks a lot.
Hey, Pat, I really, really appreciate you, brother. I mean, it's kind of we've never really connected face to face. We've never really, sat down and had a cup of coffee together or shook hands or
right.
We kind of know each other just through this virtual world, this online space. But I'll say, in my experience of you, it's kind of one of these weird things. Which thank God for the internet that we can create this kind of a virtual relationship. But to some degree or another, it's kind of like I've known you my whole life. I mean, that's kind of how it can be. And I really, really, just want to thank you for even thinking of me when it came to this project. I really want to thank you for your time. I really want to thank you for your service to our industry by taking the time to put this project together, because this is no small feat whatsoever. I'm not sure people realize that when they're ingesting this information, but literally hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours are going to go into this. Time, money, sweat, blood, tears, all of that stuff, and really just being a service to our industry, really be, kind of just going out there and wanting to help others. And I really appreciate that from you. I think people have a lot to learn from that, because it is that attitude, it's that willingness to give, that willingness to be of service to others. I mean, the money we make is a reflection of the service we offer, right?
Right.
Or we serve more. And I just want to thank you for again, inviting me to be a part of this project. It's an honor to me to be invited. It's an honor for me, you, somebody of your magnitude, to even think of me when it comes to a project like this. So I appreciate that, and then I appreciate also what you're doing for our industry, brother. And
hey, thanks a lot. I feel the same way. Like you said, there's some people that you just kind of get a feel for. You know that they're your kind of person, and that is just kind of as we started getting to know each other online, and then we've got some mutual friends that have said the same thing about you. So I was glad to have you part of it.
All right, thank you, my friend.
Awesome, thank you, and thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll talk to you on the next one.
Hey, this is Pat Petrini again, and just to wrap up really quickly, I just want to remind you that if you liked this interview, we've got a whole bunch more. If you go to our website, it's tmm4networkmarketers.com. That's TMM, like the Miracle Morning, FOR, networkmarketers.com. And, of course, if you haven't checked out the book yet, you can go to, first off, you get 2 free chapters of the book at tmm4networkmarketers.com. And then, of course, if you want to get the book, go to Amazon and just search for The Miracle Morning for networkmarketers.com, and you can get it paperback, Kindle, whatever. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you really enjoy the rest of the content that we've made available for you. Thanks a lot. Again, my name is Pat Petrini, and I'll see you on the next interview.